good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what time you're viewing this podcast. This podcast series we call Race, Culture, and the Church. Race, Culture, and the Church. And again, we try to intersect those three subject areas. I believe we're going to hit all three today. But I invite you to go all the way back to when we first started this series. We started it about a week after the murder of George Floyd. And we've had different folks come into this space to talk about race, culture, or church, all three, usually 2 out of 3. But I am pleased, I am honored to have in this space Michael Benjamin II. Your title is, right, your current title is, besides Mr. Oak Park, is the area director for District 5?
District director for
District director for District 5 for Council Member Katie Maple.
Yeah.
Welcome, Michael.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming. It's taken a minute to get here, but we're here.
Right.
And I'm loving the hat and all. And you just helped a brother out when you said, I asked, "Are you a Phillies fan?" He's like, "No, it's a P." And the P is for?
Stands for Oak Park. Yeah, the park.
Park.
So we affectionately call it the park.
Okay.
Right? And the full title is Oak Park, right? But when you grow up here, it's the park.
The park.
And it's funny because the catchphrase for well, where are we gonna meet at? The park, right? And so the uniqueness of this community is it's built around parks. So you have McClatchy Park, which is our biggest park, and then you have sets of smaller parks that are around the community, right? So it kind of was always that meeting point there. And so when you put all that together, we affectionately call our neighborhood the park.
The park.
And that's what the P stands for.
And you're rocking it well. So you shared that you grew up here in Oak Park. This was your home. This was your space. 2nd Avenue?
Yeah, so the address on my birth certificate is 2nd Avenue. Yeah, that was my first place I landed.
That you're aware of.
Yeah, I'm aware. Yeah, right.
Boy, oh boy, you're north of 30. I'll just leave it at that. So the fact that Oak Park has been your home, you've seen quite a bit of transformation.
I have. I've seen a lot of transformation, actually. Growing up here, and I am north of 30, but I'm a early 70s baby. And so my father grew up here. And so, I've seen all the change. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, I wasn't born before the freeways were built, but I got all the stories, right, about what Oak Park looked like before freeways. Once the freeways were built, you have this rural sprawl, right? Everybody, bolts out for, greener pastures and leaves. And they leave areas dilapidated, if you will, undesired. And then, we were able to move here. We were redlined here. So a lot of people in Oak Park, they'll tell you they lived downtown initially, right? And then
the West End.
The West End. And then they were redlined to this area when it was deemed, undesirable. So
I've shared the story that when my parents moved here from Bakersfield, where I was born, 1967, there were 2, maybe 3 areas that were available. Del Paso Heights, South Sacramento, and Oak Park. And my parents, in their wisdom, we were 31, 38, 33rd Street. Right over there off of between 6th and 7th Avenue. The house is no longer there. But that was in 1967. I went to Bret Harte for 2 years, 4th and 5th grade. But I remember Oak Park as a very vibrant, thriving community, predominantly African-American. It's still multi-ethnic, multicultural, but it is definitely, as all areas of Sacramento, the things have become more and more expensive to live. Let's just put it that way. So again, going back to Michael Benjamin, You've seen the transformation even more so than I have, because obviously my time here has been interrupted. I'm back in Oak Park for the last 5-6 years now, but there's been a continuum, if you will, where you've seen this is what it was, this is what it was. And again, so the schools you've been to, Tahoe Elementary, Cal Middle School, Sac High, this is your home.
Yeah, and I've seen that change, and we can call it what it is, which is it's gentrification, right? It's the want and the need to move back to an area, right? That is centrally located, and because it's been deemed and stigmatized, you can buy low, right, and sell high at this point, right? So yeah, I've seen that. I live by a theory, which is there can be development without displacement.
Correct.
You don't have to displace the people. What happens is that, again, it's one of those situations, and you see this around the world, right? You're seeing this around, as we say, around the country, I should say, where, you have, people who are moving into areas, developing, a lot of times overdeveloping, and it's outpricing the people who are from that neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
That conversation has to be brought up, because what happens is that, when we look at gentrification and displacement, what it does is it oftentimes, we kind of look at the physical aspect of people having to move, but we don't look at the spiritual aspect. The spiritual aspect is the fact that, this is where I'm at. These are where I'm connected to all my resources in these spaces. And if I have to move, right, I'm near my church. I'm near my dentist. I'm near my doctor. I'm near the schools that my kids go to. If I'm outpriced a place, if I get outpriced, I have to move, right? Then I got to start over with all these resource bases. And how do I get back to these resources? Mm-hmm. And so those are where the health implications come in. And that's from the standpoint in which I fight, this gentrification.
So you haven't stopped being a community activist. Mm-hmm. Oak Park specifically, Sacramento more broadly. You've entered into that space of mm-hmm. official government. Mm-hmm. What took you to community activism, and why the pivot? Mm-hmm. If it is a pivot, maybe it's just a natural progression from community-based work to government-based work.
I have a kind of a unique journey to this space, right? So I've always been in these conversations since I was born. So my grandmother and my aunt were part of a group called OPAC, right? Or the Oak Park PAC. So Oak Park Action Committee.
Okay.
And, they were on this committee with Harrison Crump and Miss Crump, my grandmother, Violet E. Hackett, my aunt, Glendale Benjamin. So I've always been in these conversations. My mother was a chairwoman for Black Culture Day at the State Fair, which had a 20-year run, and brought all kind of culture to the area. And then I'm a history guy. I'm a history major. And so what happens is that I realized that, it's kind of my responsibility to be able to understand systems and come back and articulate it to my community. And so for me, it's more of it was more of a simple transition. I've always followed government. I've always followed politics, because what happens is that, things are passed, things are written, legislation is created, and we're none the wiser, right? And so what happens is that, you're not excused from not knowing. Mm-hmm. And so to be able to now sit inside of small city government and see the innards of, how things are developed, how things are created, how decisions are made. That's my big thing now is bringing to the community how these decisions are made. Right?
So as they always say about governance, it's sausage making at its finest.
Yes.
So is your view turning you into a vegetarian?
I've always tried to eat clean anyway. So I would say to answer that question.
That is good. That's just
Yeah. Almost a vegan, right? I'm almost out the sausage, But no, you're right. It is sausage making. And what happens is that a lot of times what happens with city government is, and what we get is, as the viewing public is, we get it packaged, right?
Yeah.
And it looks good. You go in the store and you buy it.
Yeah.
You don't know what's in it.
Yeah.
And so now being able to see what's inside of it, it'll kind of, it'll shift. But what also happens too is that now I'm inside of the sausage making process. I can now make suggestions about what should go in the sausage as well. And that's the standpoint that I look at it, right?
I love that that analogy, and I can continue that. There's a lot of sausage being made in Oak Park.
Yes.
I mean, for better or for worse, Oak Park. For better, it's an extremely desirable community.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Full stop. I love Oak Park. I love the people. I love the buzz. I love the gentrified, and I love the grunge, and I love everything in between. I love Purple Pig Eats. I love 40 Acres. I'm thinking of the catfish place, Flowers.
Flowers, yeah.
I love that. But I also see things in the offing, if you will. And I don't know. I've asked the question of Chancellor May and different ones about Aggie Square and the ultimate result of all of that, the $1 billion plus investment in community. Put on a different hat, maybe the same P hat. What is Oak Park? What do you think Oak Park will look like, could look like in 10 years?
You're right, because I see the office too, and I've wore this P hat longer than I've worn the current professional hat that I have.
No doubt.
Right? So I've been in this 7 months, but I've been in this for,
your whole
40
life.
years. Yeah. So I'm always going to look at it through that lens. It's kind of the recognition. Gentrification doesn't recognize the reason why people want to come back here, right? It was brothers and sisters and Black people who kept this community, right, under-resourced, marginalized, kept it relevant, kept it cool, kept it hip, right? Kept it desirable, right? Kept it flavorful. So you wanted to move back here. Like, this is a cool community. I like to be here. Because what happens is we all create vibrations. And the people who are here, your Norman Blackwells, your Harrison Crumps, your Walter Beatties, your Callie Carneys, your Joe Debs, right? They kept the vibration, right, high enough to where people want to come back and be a part of this community. And so that's what doesn't get recognized. And this is where I sit at the table with your UC Davises and your cities, and I bring this to their attention, right? And so for that reason, the community needs to have a stake in, decision-making processes as it pertains to, Aggie Square or whatever goes on in the city or the community. And so in the next 10 years, God willing, I think, I'm pushing for, a way to balance kind of some levity to keep, our culture, our people, in our community and involved.
It's a heavy lift.
It's a super heavy lift. It's a super heavy lift, but it's a lift that has to be. It has to be started.
See, the part of the challenge, I'm telling you, you already know, I'm sure you're living it on the daily, is that, someone has to be visionary. This is where we can be. This is who we can be. This is where we can go. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I have very real and pressing needs. I won't say, dare I say, survival, but I'm just a few paychecks, if not just one, mm-hmm. of, being in a destitute situation or possibly homeless. Oak Park, it was about a month ago, I read an article in the Bee where they were saying Oak Park per square foot of housing is the highest, if not the highest place to live in the county. Mm-hmm. Oak Park. Yep. This is crazy.
Just think about someone like me from here. I want to purchase a home here. This is where I'm from. And it's increasingly looking like that won't happen.
I can't, on a personal level, I can't afford to live in Oak Park.
No. And I think what happens is that's the part of development, that's the part of gentrification that has to be addressed, right? As I said before, you can have development without displacement. It's and it's only gonna get, I hate to say this, it's only gonna get probably tougher as, surgeons and doctors and nurse practitioners and specialists move into the neighborhood.
And I would not fault them. I understand. It's like if this is my place of employment, I don't feel like commuting a great distance. And I see folks regularly, in their hospital scrubs on bicycles going to work. I understand that. I love that. I absolutely love that. But for every physician, clinician in hospital scrubs on a bike, there's maybe a single parent with two kids that, okay, that's a spot that's not for me. And that's it. You painted a picture a few minutes ago, before we started recording, of, again, that I like how you put it, that buzz, that vibration of when you were attending, I'm assuming it was football. Maybe it was baseball. What was your sport?
Baseball.
Baseball.
Mm-hmm.
When you had the marches from Sac High to Hughes Stadium, describe that again. Just the picture you painted. It was incredibly beautiful. And again, it underscores what you were saying about this is what makes Oak Park, and who wouldn't want to be here?
Yeah. So when I was in high school, we had, for homecoming, we would have a homecoming parade, and it was absolutely amazing. I mean, you have alumni come out, everybody from the community would come out and watch. And so the route would start at 34th, which is the mouth of the parking lot at Dave Hotel Pavilion, right there on Sac High. We'd go down 35th corridor. We'd make a right at McClatchy Park, and then we'd make a left onto 33rd. And back then, I was explaining to you also that Sac High is traditionally an art school. We had a VAPAC program, Visual and Performing Arts, and we had a full radio station, full TV studio, full graphic arts design program. Our theater program was hands down one of the best in the country. I mean, from set design to whatever it was, we were a performing arts school, kind of like Fame, right? So we had dance studio, ballet, whatever it was. We had that at Sac High. And so what it did was it just presented this full kind of academic spectrum, right, that you could get into, from everything from music to arts to whatever it was. And then we were also super competitive academically in the core subjects as well. So we'd have these parades for homecoming, and we'd walk down the street, and it really, really drew the community in. It was so unique. And we'd walk from, I don't know the distance, but we'd walk from Sac High to Hughes Stadium, and then we'd play our football game. So the band would stay there. It was under the leadership of a gentleman named Ike Padgett. And as I was mentioning, he's a Grambling graduate, band leader, band director. And so he'd have, our band was top notch. Like they travel, they go to Canada, they go different places and be in competitions. And see, that's some of the uniqueness of this community. And not to say anything about any other community in Sacramento, but this is the uniqueness. And that speaks to that vibration I was talking about, right? Because nobody else really has that like we had it. Right?
I would agree.
So I think the fear I have is the disappearance of that type of culture in Oak Park. The disappearance of, because that's what gentrification does a lot of times. And displacement is it comes and it wipes the name off of somewhere that was special at one point in time, and it slaps a new name up, right? And then it becomes whatever it is that it's been kind of redeveloped into.
It becomes almost, I don't even want to call names of chain restaurants or whatever, because then I probably would lose viewership. But it's like, oh, this is the same. Well, you have this in Fresno or Stockton or Denver. It's like there's nothing unique. What I have found, what makes a community unique are the people that are there and all of it's kind of like a potluck, if you will.
Yes.
It's like, man, this is a great feast. Well, you brought the yams, you brought the mac and cheese, you brought the ham. Everybody brought themselves, and it's like, wow, what an incredible banquet, as opposed to getting a frozen dinner from the local grocery store. And there's a lot of frozen dinners all over the country, and there's a blandness. There's something, dare I say, guttural. There's something spiritual that's really missing, and it's not healthy. It's less healthy. I just carry a metaphor forward. You get type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure and all those other things. So it's like, no, this is what Oak Park. Again, I have fond memories, even though it was only 2 years in my youth that was spent here. It was formative for me.
Yeah. No, it's people. It was Wakanda for me. I remember Oak Park before crack, right? So that community you speak of, I was on the tail end of that, right? Being born in the early 70s, I remember just all the Black professionals. I remember going to McClatchy Park, and we were all around that park, right? And it was, after people got off work, we probably had 200 to 215 kids, as a part of our Little League, right? And, we're out there just doing things, all professional, my father, my mother, I had friends' fathers and things of that nature. And then I remember it after, right? After 81, 82, right? How it started to kind of,
change,
spiral. Yeah. And so, I guess the fond memories I have is what fuels my fire and my fight, right? Because a big part of kind of gentrification sometimes is they have to slap this label and this stigma, right? And on a space to say that it needs to be developed, right? Hey, it's just like you were talking about with those meals, right? Those pre-processed meals, they work for corporate, right? Because it's like we can pre-process it, we know what the process is, as opposed to that meal that's cooked by, that person from the community who's really gonna put the love in. It might take a little bit more, but what you're gonna get out of it.
It's so much more.
Yeah, you'll never forget it.
So I'll enter into the space. I know that your grandfather was a pastor, preacher. Your father's a deacon. I'm kind of like Paul to Timothy. It's like, I know your mother, I know your grandmother. It's in you too. So I joke with you, but I'll say it now. Reverend Benjamin, share with me, with others now, your spiritual journey, how and the importance of your growing up and your faith.
Yeah. So, my grandfather was a Kojic minister.
Kojic means
Church of God in Christ.
Okay.
In Lathrop, California, for 50 years. Highlight Church of God in Christ. His name is Reverend Maurice Cotton. And my grandmother is still living, and she's an evangelist, Minnie Cotton. And so, I was one of those kids who grew up with a strong spiritual structure, if you will. And if you notice, I said strong spiritual structure, not strong religious structure.
I caught that.
Because I think sometimes people look for God and find religion instead. And so it was important that, my grandfather instilled that in me. He said, you follow a man of God, you follow a man's walk, not his talk. And so that's what I kind of kept. One of my favorite songs they sing is the chorus is "Take the Lord along with you everywhere
you go."
Yeah, and so that's what I kind of.
You're gonna need them. You're gonna need them.
Exactly.
Everywhere you go,
right? And so that only makes sense. And so I was one of those kids. I played the drums.
Were you any good?
I was good up to a certain age, and then I kind of,
So the answer is no. Bit. Okay,
yeah.
All right.
Right now, I'm still on the Mighty Clouds of Joy kind of drum. Hey, listen, if it's something slow, I can get down. I don't get me no fast. I don't want to change speeds and all that. But I love that because one thing about churches it's the inclusivity, right? It's being included. And that's what Black churches are, right? You include. And so that's why I was speaking to you and the council member and I, in our office, we're going to launch our Faith Leaders Network, which I hope, I'm hoping that you'll be a big part of. And the reason why is because we understand the significance of our churches and our spiritual gathering spaces in our communities. We understand how important that is. And so we want to definitely, bring that into the fold in terms of, how we go about making decisions and what's best for our communities. And so, I spent a lot of time so my aunt taught Vacation Bible School.
Okay.
And your summers. You want to hang out in your summers.
Yeah, you don't want to go back to a church building and it's hot, probably hot in there. And what are we going to make? Plaster of Paris molds again and praying hands and the Ten Commandments? No, I'm good. I'm good.
and my aunt taught at Shiloh, and we grew up on 9th Avenue in Oak Park. And so, and Gilligan was on, it was Gilligan and I think Green Acres. And and she, come on. And we walked down from, to Shiloh. And like you said, she was a teacher. She was a teacher for real. So, we making all kind of arts and crafts and learning about, but all jokes aside, it is important.
Absolutely.
It was absolutely important and needed. And so.
To your point, I just, I don't want time to slip away from me. It just seems as if in our zeal to be all inclusive, that we've excluded certain voices in the conversation. Yeah. So I appreciate your and the council members' vision to take a step back, reevaluate, and okay, let's see what these voices can offer. I'm assuming by the fact that you're doing this, you feel that those voices have been not heard, either intentionally or maybe the voices never spoke up. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. I think to be honest, I think that the voice might be there, but it might be coming from just one or two representations from
the
community. Yeah. We want to get the full voice because we understand that, the complexity of humans is that, they find spirituality different ways and in
Correct.
different spaces. And so we need to gather that, right? To have a full kind of real conversation about how we can better serve our community. And so, there's one or two voices from the community that's out there.
Well, count us in.
Yes.
You goes without. I don't think no was ever an option from your perspective. So that we are City Church is always willing to step into that space of conversation to see at least where the conversation goes, and then it will the process will determine our engagement, if you will, and the productivity of it all. Again, time's getting away. But as far as next big things from Michael Benjamin II, what are maybe some big things that are in the works that aren't maybe totally ready for revealing, or maybe not even from a council member seat perspective? It's just, no, these are some visions that I'd like to see Oak Park take advantage of.
As we build out some new things, I'll say this: we have a push towards some literacy. So we don't have a library, and so my mother has had a grassroots effort for the last 10 years, Friends of Oak Park Library, and we're pushing, and so that ball's rolling. So I was able to get my mom with the council member. They were able to meet, and this is before, she got in the office. And so I'm happy to say that it looks like things are moving, in a positive way.
Awesome.
We have 3,000 to 5,000 school-aged kids in this area and no library, and we were told, I remember when I was a kid and the library closed, they were like, well, you can go over to Colonial Heights. But my mom wasn't going to let me cross Stockton Boulevard to go to a library. Like, that just wasn't going to happen. And so I think again, Pastor, we talk about gathering spaces, right? And so what better, we need a library is what I'm saying, right? So we can, kind of do those things. Safety. So we're looking at safety in terms of safe roads, more walkable roads, bikeable roads, things of that nature. And then, I'll never stop the fight for, anti-displacement. Trying to come up with that. I've presented to the city a set of anti-displacement values, which I can give to you as well. And they're just values, right? I'm not asking for, ordinances or anything like that, but these are values that I'd like us to consider before, we start to, these big development projects and things of that nature. And youth, and I have to say, honestly, that I really appreciate City Church. City Church, I was talking about that vibration earlier, and how Oak Park has this kind of distinct vibration, and City Church has that vibration. City Church just fits in that vibration.
Bless you.
And I can speak to that because being born and raised here, I can feel it, and so I definitely appreciate that. One of the things we want to do too is we're really looking at a youth component, right? We have coming up, we have Measure L dollars, right? Which is going to be specific for youth development and youth programs. And so we're excited about that too, to see how we can utilize some of those funds to bring some diverse programming to Oak Park.
What do you have in mind, or is it too early?
I have. It's early, but I have some things. So see, that's what I'm saying. See, you all. I just want to say this: Faith Leaders Network. I'm gonna be sitting down, Pastor Meeks, coming up with this. Now I can give you what I have, but I'd rather sit down with you to see what would you think would be best as well.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I really do. Before I forget, and I know I'm out of time, but that's okay. There are more than a few vacant lots in Oak Park, and housing obviously is killer. And I know a lot of the lots are owned by or managed by Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency. As a matter of fact, one of the lots, it's been fenced off and is, I guess, in the process of being developed now by a contractor or developer that is in relationship with SHRA right across the street from us. So can you give us any more, give an update in terms of the vacant lots? Is there a coordinated process or view of what are we doing with the vacant lots?
So our office, we try to put together a vacant lot registry and check in to see what's gonna go, because you're right, housing is, something that we need to address. And
it's a thing.
Yeah, it is a thing, right? It's a thing. And our council member she's very, she's dialed in on that. Like she understands that we need housing, and her whole thing is, we need housing. We need to create housing. And so we have developed a vacant lot registry where we're monitoring all these vacant lots and inquiring, right? Mm-hmm. We're calling the owners. We're calling the owner, hey, what's going on? What are we doing?
We received our notice too. So we had to, this is our vision. This is our plan. So
because we can't allow people to just sit, because that's what happens. See, that's a big part also too. What happens is people sit on these, it's funny, gentrification is like a 20-year process. And so if I sit on something for 20 years, right, it's vacant, I'm not developing it, I'm not, there's no plan, and then 20 years comes down the line, and then boom, I sell it for, you get what I'm saying? So we're really inquiring, we see these vacant lots, like I said, we've cataloged them, and we're making these calls and seeing what's going on. Hey, what's going on? What are we doing? What's the plan? Because, we do need to look at a lot of housing, a lot of middle housing, right? We're looking at a lot of middle housing as well, which is, things that we can possibly put more housing on lots that already have maybe something on it. And then we need to put some more on it, right?
So is there opportunity for the city to incentivize the sell or development of the land?
So that's a very good question. I think
short answer is no. I'm just saying. I'm just reading the body language. That's all.
So I think. So you see, I got to put my this now the P. Now the P stands for politics.
Okay.
So let me give you the politically correct answer, which is I would welcome people to go to the city's website and look at what they have to offer. There's some things, but it has to work within certain parameters and things of that nature. But
sure,
but
I get it. But I guess really what's even behind the question that's behind the question is there a master plan? And I've had people step into this space when it comes to even issues of homelessness. I am privileged to serve on the advisory council to the Salvation Army. And it is a very robust discussion that's going on right now in terms of what is the government's role, what is the NGO's role in terms of addressing things of homelessness. And what I keep, the theme that I keep getting is that we are playing societal whack-a-mole. Issue pops up, let's take a whack at it. But there is no strategic plan, if you will, to deal with those systemic things that that we all see, observe, respond viscerally to. This is horrible. Somebody should do something about this. And it seems no one's stepping back and say, okay, here's the vision. Here's the plan. This is where we're going.
Yeah. It's tough. We had a very kind of really good council meeting yesterday where these topics were addressed.
A very robust discussion.
Yeah. Very robust, right? And so, I encourage, because the answer is in the people, right?
I would agree.
And so people got to start voting with their feet. We got to start, the activity in which, we take part in the process. And that's what I was telling you earlier when you asked me about, why this kind of the pivot or the shift, because I want to be in a space where I can now bring the process of decision-making from a city standpoint to my people, right? And explain to them, hey, this is why this is important. This is what this means, and it's just the definitions, what an ordinance is, right? What it means when something is in, comes to the council in this way, what needs to go on, right? And so it's
other
tough.
than giving you a megaphone,
it's tough.
I'll personalize it. What can City Church do? What can Mark Meeks do to help elevate your voice beyond what it is to create that communal traction, if you will, to get that response? What can we do? What can be done? What can we do?
Yeah. Well, first of all, continue to do what you're doing because you're doing really good things. But I think what happens is that, again, I would be up to just being able to come out and just explain the processing, right, of why, involvement in, city decision-making is so important. A lot of us, there's a stigma amongst our people, right? I ain't mess with the government, man. I this, that, and the other. To be honest, taking this position, which I love and which I'm grateful for, that the council member, came to get me for, but financially I kind of took a hit. But
I'm sure you're not getting wealthy in this position.
No.
So, no.
But to have the ability to get closer to decisions that are going to affect my people, can't put a price on that, right? Can't put a price on that. And for however the Lord has me here, I still have a chance to get in and, I don't say agitate, but to get in and advocate, let's just say that.
Make a difference.
To make a difference. And so now, hey, I'm closer to a lot of things, right? Decisions that are going to affect, Oak Park, my people, homeless, I'm closer to those. And I'm hoping that I'm creating a voice that'll be big enough to where when I do say something, when I do speak, people will listen and say, hey, let's reconsider or that sounds good or whatever it is. But without taking that leap of faith, how will I ever know? And so that's what the decision
Well,
is.
you'll have me on record. I've said it before. I'll say it now. If you need physical space, be it outside of our building, inside of our building, and you want to call a community meeting to say this, that, or the other, the pulpit is open, Reverend Benjamin. So you just be led in whatever way, shape, or form you need. Whatever we need to do to help you help our community, I'm down for that.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate your prayers, Pastor, too. I know I call you sometimes. I'm like, Pastor, I just need, because
it's tough.
It is. And
it's tough. You are, and all joking aside, you are in every sense of the word, a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's just a different platform.
Yeah.
It's just a different pulpit. And so I'd better leave it at there because I know I'm going long. But you will come back. I have to have you back. So, Michael Benjamin II, soon to be Reverend, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.